Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Age of Empires 2 HD. I once again am commentating this after the recording. I did decide to turn the music off in the recording itself, that way you don't have to listen to sped up music. But I thought the general noises these guys make accelerated is quite hilarious. For instance, the death animation I found particularly funny. High squeaky death voices somehow I found this entertaining. Anyway, I did switch the difficulty to moderate in case you missed it in the setup screen. For the rest of it, it was the same. Random generation of the terrain and two opponents who are also at war with each other in theory. But I'm starting off here, slowly but steadily building up my my initial villages. I think I have the Dark Age pretty much figured out how to do this properly, but after that I get a bit sloppy, so I still need to improve a bit. Also, I feel like, I don't know this here yet, but we're actually on islands. I'm not overly sure I would be able to deal with the CPU if I were to be not on an island. So if I were to have an open field with this CPU, I'm not sure if I can beat him still. So I'm going to do a couple more games at this difficulty, and of course post them with you guys, and then see how it goes. I'm hoping to gradually increase the difficulty setting, but for the time being I'm going to keep it on moderate and see how I perform against these CPUs. Okay, yeah, I'm still exploring my island a bit, and also slowly but steadily building up a few houses so that I don't get population capped. This is something I have to really keep a close eye on. I know that building these houses last second is better for me, because that way I don't need as much wood production, but it's also, if I miss one, then the economical downside of this is far greater than I would gain by waiting for it for the last second each time. Excuse me. I just ate and I've got the hiccups. Anyway, slowly but steadily I'm increasing my population and getting to a point where I feel like I should be getting to the feudal age. I should actually, in this playthrough, I think I waited with getting wood production going too long, so in this particular case it didn't hurt that much, because, actually it hurt me extra, because this is an island map, and the late game food production is very important, or wood production in general is very important, because, you need to build boats to defend yourself. Well, in this particular case it didn't come to bite me, because the CPUs were apparently quite busy with each other. I am switching more and more guys to my wood. I have found that if I slowly switch my berry harvesters to farmers, that first of all I'm harvesting berries for a bit longer, which is fine, but I'm also harvesting it doesn't run out as quickly, so I have time to gather more wood in the meantime. Now, like 10 guys at the same time need to get their farm ready, which costs wood, which is fine, but then, you run into problems because you don't have that kind of wood. You see me doing it here. I've got 5 guys who could get a farm going, but the rest of them were, well, not enough wood, so they had to stop producing food, which is always a bad thing, definitely at the start. I do believe I have a little bit of food saved up here. Again, it's quite difficult to see in my my preview screen. I am playing as the Franks, by the way, which I find hilarious for reasons I will not explain to you now. But these I initially was not very impressed by this, but they have a ranged unit which whose damage counts as normal damage, so not piercing damage, which you would normally expect for ranged units, which is quite useful, and the range is actually not too bad. They also have a buff on cavalry production speed, and they have some very good cavalry to help them out with this. But yeah, this also requires gold, and given that this is an island map and I also need to build ships which cost gold, it's a bit yeah, becomes a bit difficult to get gold for everything. So I ended up not using a lot of cavalry. I think I definitely used a little bit. Don't get me wrong, I did use cavalry, but yeah, the production speed bonus really wasn't that big. Also, you don't get the end game light cavalry, which is unfortunate. But yeah, it's the light cavalry does work, I guess, but the hussars are just better, which I don't have access to now. They also don't have spectacular farm production, but for some reason I decided I was still mainly going to focus on farms for their for the food income. Partly because I did have a match with a friend on islands, and I noticed the CPUs are very aggressive with their fleet construction early on, which means that you can all of a sudden get rushed by about 20 ships or something like this, which is just too much to deal with, definitely at the start. So what I found is that once you have a castle in place, it's no big deal, but yeah, I wasn't sure if I would get rushed by this, and I did not want to build the cornerstone of my economy on something I wasn't sure I was going to be able to keep up. So hence the very poor, inefficient farmland. Decided to upgrade here to man-at-arms and then cancel, because yeah, I don't need man-at-arms at the moment. This is something I really always have problems with at first when playing a new strategy game, is that when at start I always wonder, oh, I have an upgrade, I need to click it, but when you don't need an upgrade, don't build it. Don't do it, because you don't need that. That's money you could be spending elsewhere. For instance, now I built 5 boats, which I'm definitely going to need, because these boats will help defend me. I'm trying to remember if in this playthrough my boats get attacked. I don't think they were. I think the CPUs were pretty much busy with each other. Not sure if I'm going to keep this 2 CPU setup, because this way you don't really get an accurate feel for if you're doing good or not, based on your in-game performance, because yeah, well, the CPUs might be fighting each other instead of you, but then also it gives a bit of unpredictability, which I again like, but yeah. We'll just have to see how it works out in the future, I guess. Okay. In the feudal age I always drag behind a little bit. I'm not really sure why this is. Maybe it's because I already invest in some structures, but then these only cost wood. Maybe I'm getting too many upgrades in the feudal age, I'm not entirely sure. The CPU generally rushes quite quickly to the last age, or to the castle age, then build their castle and quite quickly build this, and then start using the advantages they get from the castle, which I suppose it makes sense doing this, but yeah, I generally, when I'm playing, I find this quite risky play. Perhaps I should check a bit more how these mediocre CPUs play, and then adapt my my general strategy accordingly, because against people I would definitely not wait this long for building any defensive units. I would definitely already have some archers and some swordsmen out just in case I get attacked, but these CPUs use this lack of building defensive units just for yeah, they get ahead further, so they use these resources I use for units to either advance to the next stage, or yeah, here we go. I actually advance to the next stage. Not really sure where my enemy is at. I think they're also already in the castle age. At least one of them is. Another one might be as well. I'm not really sure. I mean, this preview window I get has such poor resolution. It's horrible. Yeah, I cannot read anything. You're probably just laughing at me like, yeah, both of them already got the castle age like ages ago. What are you talking about? But yeah, I really can't tell from here. Also, the only reason I know I'm the Franks is because I remembered this time. I cannot actually read this from the screen I've got here in front of me. But, yeah, my navy is definitely too small here for if they were to attack me, I'm in trouble. But yeah, also spending this gold on something other than a navy feels like, or spending my gold on the navy and then not really using it aggressively also feels like a bad investment, to be honest. I probably should be emphasizing stone a bit more at this point, so that yeah, I mean the Franks can build their castles a great deal with a great deal less stone. It's one of their special traits, so to say. But this, yeah, it still requires a lot of stone, and I think once you have this castle down and you place it a bit strategically in one of the points where ships could come to attack you, you basically, yeah, you're in a lot better a spot, because these castles generally fend off quite large fleets. And together with your yeah, with your economy back home, you generally don't run into problems where the castle gets destroyed. So I feel like once you have this castle, you can breathe a bit easily. But until then, you really are not in a good spot. So perhaps I should, in these island maps, emphasize the production of stone a bit more. I think this would be a good idea. I mean, I have a vast overproduction of wood at this point, which is, you know, fine, but where am I using it for? I could probably put these villagers to stone production instead. That would probably be a better thing, I feel like. By the way, if you have any comments and disagree with me on any of this, then please don't hold back and post in the comments, because yeah, I love figuring this out on my own, but there's a reason I put this up on the internet. Maybe some of you guys are watching this and thinking to themselves, "Ah, you idiot, you should be doing it like this." Then please tell me. Anyway, I, like a derp, ran out of room for my, I had two little houses, so my population capped out. This is always a bad thing. Every second you're not building anything with your stuff you gather is a bad thing. You want to be spending your gold at all time, and you want it to be useful. So for instance, if you don't intend to use any upgrades that you're doing, then please don't make them at all. You don't need them. So yeah, this is also something I still need to get used to. You see me here always like making upgrades I don't need. Basically, I should be focusing on getting stone, getting the castle down, and then advancing to either the Imperial Age or start building an army and attack with it. Okay, now I've got a small fleet defending here. Make no mistake, 10 ships is not a lot. If my enemy would come now, I would be in big trouble. That is, until I finish that castle. That castle will help me a lot, and now I've got also 10 fire ships to help defend me, which all together should be enough to fend off an initial attack from these CPUs. Generally, when you first see a ship from the enemy, start building more ships, because they have vast fleets, but for some reason they don't just commit all of their fleet in one go. They like dribble them in, which is, yeah, I mean, it's a very inefficient way of using your ship, but on the other hand, you don't really see it coming when you start. First you go, oh, it's only whatever 5-6 enemies, and you like leave the fleet there and attack him, and it's like, ah, they'll win it. And then you come back and all of a sudden there are 20 enemy ships surrounding your fleet and you're getting destroyed. It's yeah, it's unfortunate when it happens, and at first I really wasn't prepared for it. So when the game I played with a friend of mine, I really needed his help to get back on my feet once I got attacked. But yeah, you see me here building all kinds of upgrades I don't yet need, so yeah, good on me, I suppose. Faster. This is one I usually wait for a very long time before getting it. It's the faster building of structures. I really don't see the use of it as long as you're not getting attacked or something. I mean, it's a different story if your coastline is being harassed by a fleet. Then it might be a good idea to get and then quickly get a castle down. So perhaps there's something to be said for this. But I could probably use this money far better to advance quicker to a higher age, or build an offensive army and already start launching attacks. All of these things could be done way before I start making upgrades. Now I'm upgrading units I don't even have yet. I mean, it means that once I build them, they're immediately the higher tier units, which is of course not terrible, but I would prefer to use to instead use that gold to either get an upgrade for instance, that they don't get converted as quickly by monks, because the enemy always has a few monks running around and they're always converting my units, which is terribly annoying. You see me here finally employing a bit of fishing boats, I should say. Difference between a boat and a ship, I'm not really sure. Fishing ship? Fishing boat? Not sure. Anyway. Yeah, I prefer large patches of wood, really, to these small patches. I mean, sure, you need to update them anyway if you really want to be efficient with your lumbering, but when a large patch of wood, you can just plop one down and just wait for a bit, and then eventually it will. You can go back and place one closer if you want it to be more efficient, but you don't have to look at it every once in a while to just check they haven't stopped doing anything at all, which is with these small patches. You just build a lumber camp, and as far as I can feel, they like mine out in like 10 minutes or something, which is surprisingly annoying to keep track of when you already have stone mines, gold mines, wood, fishing camps, and whatever to keep your mind occupied already. And I usually employ several lumbering camps just so they don't run out all at the same time. I'm not sure if this is a good idea, but it's what I'm doing so far. Also, I feel like I have a vast overproduction of stone late game, but getting gold late game is so difficult. I feel like you should, or what would be better if I were to instead like try and balance out the food and the food and the wood production, so that I can build, for instance, pikemen and stuff like this. When I have an overproduction of this kind of stuff and I'm waiting on gold for whatever reason, I should be building armies, sending them out there already, do some damage. I'm not sure if this is the greatest thing to do against normal CPUs, or against CPUs in general, because I sometimes feel like once you attack a CPU, then he like figures out like, okay, you're the bad guy, let's kill you now. Which I guess is a logical way of thinking, but usually people don't pick their targets based on who attacks them. They generally pick their targets based on what's more convenient at the time. I am plopping castles down all over the place because I have the stone to do it, and yeah, why not? It helps with defense a lot. You also see me trying to plop them down at different angles of the base where I feel like ships might be coming from. So this way I'm quite well defended. Second stone mine going down, which I believe is the last of the island I'm on. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it is. Gold is definitely not an infinite resource here. Yeah, technically it is, because I have these relics to help me out, but in principle I don't have any excess gold I can use, or I can count on, like for instance trade resources or something like this. I really need to rely on the gold mines, which means I have a very limited amount of gold to work with. I'm not sure if the map generator actually keeps that in mind when you generate a map, if you have an ally or not. Maybe it would make sense that you would get less gold patches if you're with two guys in one team rather than on your own, because yeah, you have the trade to help you out with the gold, which helps so much. You can definitely just rely on the income of trade rather than mining to generate your gold. Okay, now I think I'm at this point starting to consider building larger amount of or larger army that I can then use for an attack. Because I've been left alone for quite some time, which tells me that probably my enemies are attacking each other. So I'm starting to build up an army to launch an attack. My choice of target would then of course be the strongest one. I think this would be the right thing to do in this case, otherwise the strong one would focus on me. I would prefer to weaken the stronger one, whilst the weak one would then be left alone, so to say. I mean, it's not a guarantee, of course, but at this point I'm generally I feel like getting the attacking the big one would be the way to go. Is what I'm saying. I'm also still building upgrades. I am now actively building large amount of units, which is a good thing. I have this nasty habit of clicking upgrades when I see I don't have the money to do it, just, I don't know, for whatever reason. But yeah, okay, here the first units are starting to flow in here. With the last video I put up, I really liked the death sounds the units make, because they have this high squeaky voice, because I sped up the footage 2 times. But yeah, the sound was really, the music was really obnoxious after a time. I mean, at first it was quite funny having this very fast music, so I decided like, whatever, I can put up one video with this this sound. But after I listened to a bit of it for like half an hour, I was like, I'm not going to do this for the next video. For the next video I'm going to turn the music off. Hopefully I did this correctly. Also, I should get into the habit of researching Noom a bit quicker. I mean, it's the price of one villager, and you're guaranteed that these villagers can kill one wolf before they die, which definitely helps. And now, only now do I start exploring the map. I should have done this way quicker, just because, yeah, then I know what my enemy is up to. Right now I don't know this. I'm really poor at scouting out my enemy. I've had this in pretty much every strategy game I know, simply because I don't have the APM, I guess, to do this properly. There's also this completely derelict island next to me, which is unfortunate, but there are a few more useful islands, which I believe I actually expand to later on, because I run out of gold on this island. But yeah, now you see me micromanage all these lumbering camps, which is a royal pain. But there's really not a lot I can do about it. Ah yeah, here I get attacked. So I decide, what am I doing here anyway? Just attacking my enemy. I need to scout this unit, and then by the time I get my unit clear, I'm under heavy attack. I think I actually lured him to my castle and used this. Also, if I were to have used this fleet a little bit more than I have now, I would constantly have to be building a navy, of course, because I would need this navy, then my navy would be getting killed in the meantime, so I would require more and more navy. But also I would have been able to hurt food income and stuff like this. This would have been very useful to get done. But this is also the fun bit about playing against more than one opponent, because in theory I could rush my opponent, because yeah, the CPUs don't start building stuff until the castle age basically, which can be abused quite badly by attacking them, keeping them small, which works really well. Unfortunately, when you're attacking the enemy, or one enemy, the other guy is getting bigger. So if I were to shut down this and would instead try and or if I were to attack an enemy and or excuse me, I lost my train of thought there. If I were to fight one enemy only, then this one enemy would be quite easy to rush. But with two enemies, I cannot really rush my opponents, because if I do, I get beaten basically by the other guy, because waging a war at an earlier age means you get slower to the new age, get slower to new units, and this other guy can then build up a large army and squash you. Which is what actually happened in one of my my test recordings when I was just playing the game for a bit on my own. I decided to see how viable a rush would be, and I could definitely squash one of my opponents, but the other opponent would just squash me afterwards. That's basically the gist of it. So yeah, you won't be seeing me do that at this point. I mean, I did also check if perhaps I could have one CPU ally, and then have the two enemy CPUs ally as well. But these CPU allies are really annoying. They decide for you when you should be attacking, and they constantly bang you for gold and stone, and it's seriously annoying. And I also feel like somehow they're dumbed down. Because the last, I mean, I did a test of this, maybe I should do another test just to be sure, but he was constantly begging for resources, that was one, and two, he was getting his ass handed to him just because, well, he didn't build any, or build army fast enough to repel the initial attack. Which is quite sad, considering how late they start building army to start with. So yeah, I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it, how the general setup for this series is going to be. I mean, for now I'm going to stick with this, just two enemies that are also enemy with each other, but I might switch it out later, I'm not entirely sure yet. Now you see me here actually gathering up my my miners, my mining villagers, because I want to send them off to gather gold elsewhere. I believe I also sent some units with them to protect them just in case. These will come in handy later, but for now they'll be on their own. Okay. Now, yeah, it's really not a lot to talk about. I think I'm actually waiting for this transporter to show up. Which, frankly, for the Franks is one that can carry 20 units when you're with the Teutons, which I was in the game with my friend. You only get ships that can carry 10 guys, which is a royal pain in the ass when you're trying to transport like 200 units to the other side of the map. Yes. Now here you actually see me scouting out the landing location for my ship here, for my villagers, so that I can then start building an outpost there. I believe I start building actually a castle so that they have defenses. This was a smart idea, by the way, because I had a general idea where my enemies were, and I felt like they were right, or this outpost was right in the middle of my enemies. So I would probably get caught in the crossfire if I didn't try and protect my units here. Unfortunately, I misjudged the location of my other enemy, so I'm right here building my mine in a location somewhat to the right of my castle, whilst my enemy, the closest enemy, is actually in that direction. So my villagers are most exposed on the direction where there are the most enemies, which is not the most brilliant strategic plan here, but yeah. I didn't notice at the time. Also, this is what I get for not scouting properly. These fishing ships are of course very useful, but unfortunately they don't have this handy button which the farm does have, where you just queue up a bunch of, when you're done, replace with this. So you have to manually replace each fishing trap once it's done. I mean, it takes a lot longer than a farm. I have this feeling at least that it takes a lot longer than a farm, but in the meantime you do have to micromanage this in between, which is not something I'm very fond of. I prefer to use my rather limited micromanaging skills for something else, namely attacking stuff and building armies and stuff like this. I do decide to build here a town center so that if any of my villagers should die, then I can use I can build more villages. Oh wow. Go down, dinner. It's okay. Just food. Anyway, I do have a somewhat decent army at this point, and I think I'm already considering building. You see me on the background here already. I generally hotkey my building structures. With that I mean the barracks, the archery thing and whatever, just to make sure that I can defend, or that I optimize my production speed. So when I'm doing other stuff, I can on the back of that build new units to then attack with later. This is generally a good thing to try if you have the option. Here I noticed that I actually have an enemy attacking me, which is extremely unfortunate. I do get the goal or the brilliant idea to start bombing a castle, which I have no way of destroying with one catapult, and they definitely have a way of destroying my catapult with just time, because they have a navy to back them up, which I think is actually getting retreated from an attack on the other enemy, which is just a spectacular act of stupidity, because now I have this enemy on one end that started to attack me because I attacked him, which makes a lot of sense. And on the other hand I have this navy of the other enemy, which has recently been freed up because they were fighting this navy that is now attacking me. So I now get squished between two enemies because I do some moronic attack on a castle, which I figure like, oh, I can reach that with a catapult, haha. But not my greatest idea. But I luckily did have a navy to help me, so yeah, I've got that going for me, which is nice. I do also have these X-Men. They're actually remarkably useful for what I'm doing here. They have an attack which counts as a normal attack, so not a piercing attack, which is extremely useful against ships because they have high defenses against arrows. Now here you actually see me starting to prepare my units to be crossed over to the other side. I should probably have placed my galleons and fire ships a bit further back, rather than all the way back here, because the cannon ships could have dealt with them without the distraction of these galleons that are getting sunk all around. But Yeah, I didn't get them away. I was busy other things, I believe. Well, I just didn't care. I thought, oh, I've got a nice navy anyway. Who cares? But this is not generally the mentality you want to have. These cannon ships, however, are always useful. Once you have the enemy navy in the corner, you are convinced that you can hold naval superiority. These cannon ships are basically the doom of any enemy base, definitely in this map at least. With this much water, you generally can reach the majority of their base just from the shore. So remember, each of these ships contains 20 guys when they're full. So if I think I use 7 boats here, which are, I think, mostly filled. I think one of them wasn't entirely filled because I used siege equipment for that one, but I might have actually filled them up with other units. I generally do this. When I have some units left to fill a ship, boat, whatever, with units, I generally do this just because I could, yeah, these units could come in handy. That's, I mean, it's basically self-explanatory. Build another castle here, I think. Yes, I do. I basically have red on the retreat here. I do, however, underestimate the zeal of my other opponent at this point. He's building navies, and I'm not preparing for it, which will come to bite me later. Do take a few paladins with me, which are, I think, the most powerful cavalry unit in the game. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not completely positive on what other cavalry units are for the very specific units that are in there, but the paladins are definitely amongst the most powerful. Okay, still micromanaging lumber camps here. Very annoying. I prefer maps where there's just one big forest somewhere that I can just lumber out and it takes an eternity. But yeah. Okay, dude. Here's some very brave villagers trying to rebuild houses of all things. My army is ready. Now I think I landed on the beachhead I just created with my army. This is something that the enemy does. They place the island entirely full with buildings, which is I'm not sure if this is something they do when they're on a lower difficulty. I'm really not, or maybe this is something they do on a higher difficulty in general. That's what I was trying to say. But the lower difficulty, they just don't build these large cities. But when I played on the I think it was a coastal map that the random generator made, but I'm not sure. I'm not going to say. Anyway, I felt like the bases weren't that big of the AI, but here in this map they generally build quite big bases, which surprised me a little in the sense that you have a lot to destroy. I mean, if you have the wood to spare, I suppose it's actually not a bad idea to just increase the size of your base. As long as you hotkey all your production building, it really doesn't matter where they are in your base. If there's one on each end of your base, or 5 on randomly splattered throughout your base, and you've got them hotkeyed, you will still be able to create units with the same efficiency as you would if you didn't have them all hotkeyed. So it really doesn't matter. Oh yeah, here I get attacked by a gigantic navy, and it takes me such a long time to realize what's going on. Now here I tried to quickly build a castle, but unfortunately the CPU is smart enough to try and kill off my guys. Also paladins, big problem. I just mentioned how powerful they are. Well, the Helmet lost that, so yeah, what we're going to do. I do give this, don't easily give away this castle. It does take a lot of guys with him. I tried to repair it a number of times, but I don't think I actually dedicate an army to defend it. I think I do this later on. I should probably have hotkeyed my naval production as well. This way it would have been easier for me to build replacement navy. I do send my navy in this direction though. I cancel that castle construction myself to spare the resources. That way I can build them again later. build some random houses, because I think I actually maxed out my population here. I'm not sure, I don't dare say. Anyway, at this point I did start to loom on me that perhaps I would lose this castle, so I tried to repair it as best as I can. I believe I actually able to repair it quite far because of the room my navy has generated for me. What's left of it anyway. Only now do I start to realize, like, maybe I should be building something to help with the defense here. Fortunately another group of paladins showed up. If he had sent more, I probably would have lost that entire island. Which would have been unfortunate because it's the only gold production I have right now. Here I lure away these paladins, which I think was quite funny. Didn't really work for a long time though. This is, however, when I decided from, okay, you're going to attack me, I'm going to attack you. And by now I did, on the back of this, had a large army built. Now, luckily for me, they decide right after that this castle is destroyed that they really don't feel like attacking me any further. If they would have pushed their luck there, perhaps they could have caused some more damage, but as it was, they didn't really... yeah, Red also surrendered already, which surprised me in the sense that my army that was attacking him was actually not that big at the point he surrendered. He probably could have held on and sprung back, you know, but... I mean, he even had a castle left. I mean, I don't get why he so easily surrendered. Wait, this is near the end game. The next attack will be the last. I don't think the enemy will actually attempt to do much in the sense of fighting me. Once I land, they basically surrender almost immediately, I believe. They see my army and go, nope. Here I noticed that there's actually a chapel with a relic inside, which could have made me a lot of money if I had realized this earlier, but... yeah, I mean, I should have realized that each island has at least one relic on it. I say at least one because normally there are two, but there's for some reason always this one island where there's only one relic. I believe if you actually collect all the relics you can also gain a victory, but I've never actually gained one of those victories myself because when I was younger I never played with this victory setting on because I thought it was annoying. But yeah, now that I think about it, I believe is actually one of the victories. Getting all the relics. But yeah, if you get your hands on the relics, I mean you could like launch this sniper attack that takes out the enemy base quite quickly, and then you get your hands on these relics. But yeah, I generally don't launch an army until I feel quite certain that I can crush whatever's defending. I do let that ship die, that mining outpost. At least that one little building. It's one of two buildings I lost. One was of course the castle, and second was this, what's it called, a mining hut? I'm not sure. Anyway, it's about to die now. I don't even watch it die. On the back of this I am however able to collect a rather sizable army on the back of this, so I believe I'm not sure. Let's see how many of these ships I eventually have full of units. I should be able to estimate just how many guys I have. That was 6 or 7 that I saw there, with another 2 then on the way. Oof, should pay more attention. 1, 2, 3. Come on, show me the guys. I think there are 8 or 9 at the end of it, which would be 8 or 9 times 20, which would be between 160 and 200 guys attacking, which I feel like is a very admirable amount. Yeah, there's definitely 8 guys there, maybe even 10. Let's see. Ah, come on. I think there's 8. Is there 8? I can't count that quickly. Oh, hold on, let me see. Oh, we can't see. 5, 6, 7, 8. I think they're 8 or 9. Yeah, 8 or 9. 160 and 180 guys. Just attacking. I think rather quickly now they decide that enough's enough and they're going to stop, going to surrender. I do remember this not taking very long, that as soon as I launched my initial attack that they basically surrendered. So maybe it's when the castle dies. I could also envision that this is the case. But we'll see. They get back to harvesting stuff again, which is fine by me. Hopefully this all works out nicely. Yep, here I am, victorious. I hope you enjoyed this clip, or this video. If you did, please leave a like, and yeah, I'll leave you with the post-game stats, and I'll see you next time.